Happy Saturday! I have to tell you guys, I'm super excited to be starting the Kapitol Life podcast. I've been wanting to start a podcast for a while. I've had ideas about it. I hadn't really taken the plunge, and so today I am, which I'm really excited about. But you guys are going to have to help me out and let me know how the sound is when you're listening to me, because I was really good about getting the microphone, but I was really bad about taking it out of the box, and so it doesn't plug into my laptop. Like, I'm using my tablet, my Apple Mac, and oops. So, first podcast, obviously, take it out of the box before you actually open something. Don't forget to do that and double check it. I get really busy and forget, so oops, my bad. Lesson learned. I'll fix it the next time around. Anyway, it's really good to see you guys. I wanted to say welcome to the Kapitol Life podcast. I am Abby Pagood, and for those of you that don't know me, I am a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a parental caretaker, I'm a business owner of Kapitol Health. I really need to just give a huge shout out to my husband and my kids right now, because they have been putting up with me, not just for the regular general stuff, but they have been putting up with me through a lot lately. I have been super busy and doing tons of crazy, awesome things, and I'm really excited. I'll catch you guys in a little bit of what's been going on. But in general, a huge shout out to my husband and my kids for just putting up with me the last couple of weeks, because things have been insane in all the good ways. Okay, so one of the reasons that we are here tonight is because of this group called Be Infinite. Okay, this is a company that's focused on, like, your business development. They specialize with the marketing and the website and the app design, hint, hint, app design. And what they're really amazing about is like taking in what you want and like trying to help you develop it and get it growing, which a lot of you that do know me have heard about my dreams and what I want to create with my company and all these really great things. And so I have hired these guys to kind of help me expand. So now Chris and his crew are totally my runner monkeys, and they're like helping me build and do all the things that I've been trying to do that I don't have the time to. So it's super exciting. The only problem is that I'm sitting down with Chris and like talking to him, saying, hey, like if you don't have your own business or whatever, and you have to sit down and do the whole marketing thing, and you sit down and you're like getting to know each other, and like here in that session we're sitting there chatting, and as I just keep talking, he keeps being like, dude, you need to start a podcast, so I'm like, okay, it's growing on me, fine, let's start the podcast. So here we are, I'm starting the podcast. But the best part is when you're planning the podcast and they're saying, hey, this is what you need to focus on, like the first episode needs to really be about you. It needs to be your story, you telling, like, here you are to the world, who are you, right? Well, I'm not really necessarily a huge fan about, I don't have a problem telling the story, I'm an open book, but I'm like, we're sitting there talking about when we're going to launch it, and I'm sitting here looking at the calendar, and I'm like, dude, it's Thanksgiving. Let's do a Thanksgiving episode and call it Stuff It, because that would be awesome. So sure enough, like, he's sitting there laughing, and then he's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Next thing you know, he says to me, wait a second, we can't do that. You have to tell your story. So I just said straight out to him, Chris, why do I have to tell my story first? Why can't we just make up our own rules? Like, do what we want. So today, the first episode of the Kapitol Life is Stuff It. So welcome. We're going to talk about all the good things about the holidays. Basically, our focus tonight is going to be about holidays coming. What are some of those tips and tricks to help keeping you geared to prevent those holiday gains, getting yourself set up right for the new year, and really just making sure that we keep ourselves like accountable, because accountability is really important. And honestly, we are our worst accountability people. Like the first thing we do is quit and sacrifice, and that just is what happens. So what's really interesting is, well, actually, I want to just say before we get started and really get into it, I totally have to tell you that I am in awe of how many people, like I have kind of been MIA on social media and haven't really been posting. And then here I went and posted my thing just announcing the podcast. And amazingly, like there's so many of you guys that commented, totally put your hearts out there, was like showing me all the love. And I was just like, oh, little heart patter. Thank you guys. Like it just really, I mean, it made me feel really good, because, you know, sometimes putting it all out there can be just different. And honestly, I don't have a problem with, I don't really have a problem. Like, let's get this stuff going. Let's talk about things we need to talk about and just really get it going. Oh, and then I'm going to have to say, because I'm going to forget to say this later, but, you know, if you need to get in touch with me, or if you like to reach out, how to get a hold of me, you can follow my website is www.kapitolhealth.com. That's KAPITOL. So your body's a monument. You should treat it like one. So don't forget, it's KAP. And then you can always call me on 866 Capital, or even follow me on Facebook, Facebook under Kapitol Health or Abby Pagood. Either one is perfectly fine. And actually, I'm developing my YouTube channel right now, so you can also follow me on YouTube if you want. There's not a lot there, but there will be, I promise. So let's stuff it. Thanksgiving dinner table. What is the number one question that everyone's always asking? They sit down at the dinner table and they say, what are we all thankful for, right? And then some people have no problem jumping in and right off the spot, they already know, they thought about it. They thought about it on the drive to dinner because they didn't want to get put on the spot. And then you've got the group that's like, oh crap, like I haven't thought about those things. Like, what am I appreciative of, right? Well, for me, I totally am like so happy to have my family. I'm really happy, peculiarly, that my brain works the way that it does, because like I hate it and I love it at the same time, but I also feel like we don't give ourselves enough recognition that we should. So by all means, I'm going to say thank you, brain. I love you. And then the other thing I'm really happy about is my new runner monkeys that are helping me get my dreams of the company off and going, and super excited about that. So that is really awesome. Now, I am going to tell you a story. I wasn't actually going to bring this up because I didn't want really any of the attention of, you know, like just whatever. I wasn't going to bring it up, but then I was thinking, you know what, I really do want to kind of get a little bit more deep and talk about some of the things that are going on in our world. And last night I was at the grocery store. I got out of my car, you know, usual thing, put the purse on, start walking in. It's kind of chilly, not a big deal. Approaching the door to the grocery store, and right standing next to the door is this man, right? He's got a hat on, because it's a little bit chilly, sweatshirt, not really much like to think about whatever, but he's standing there with a sign, right? Like classic kind of panhandling type of situation, which one, I had to say, like, dang, that takes a lot of guts to stand next to the entry door, because it can be really uncomfortable when you're in a dire straits position and then you're sitting there having to like broadcast it. And instead, usually like they're off to the side, you know, but he was just right there by the door. And so I'm like approaching the door, you know, and it has the sign on there that's, you know, God bless, or, you know, I can't even remember, because I like didn't really read it. I was just more sad and shocked more than anything. And so like I walked past and went straight into the grocery store, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, like all of us really feel really cringy when that happens, right? Like we super feel cringy. You get that sinking feeling like it's not okay. I wish there was something I can do. Like, and really it's more about like, what do you feel comfortable with doing? Like for me, I don't carry cash on me. So it's not like I could dig into my purse and give him some in his hard times. And I usually don't. So like usually don't have cash on me. So it's not something that's feasible. I would love to have backpacks for people that, needed them, that had like self-care stuff or whatever, so that I could just give them a backpack. But I haven't prepared to do that. And it's always unexpected. So I went into the store and I'm sitting there pushing the cart. And I'm just like, it just isn't right. It doesn't sit right. You feel cringy when you walk past, like it's their business, but at the same time, there's like, what can you do to help? So I was like, you know what does somebody need when they're kind of like, when it's cold outside, they need something warm in their belly. So I went and I picked up a rotisserie chicken and like went through the store and picked up the rest of the things that I needed. And then I kind of started panicking, thinking like, oh God, he might have left already. He may not even get a rotisserie chicken. Like worst case scenario, my kids will eat it when they get home. Which I also forgot to tell my husband that I bought some stranger rotisserie chicken, but he probably knows that now because he's probably listening. So I get out of the store and I go out there and he's gone. And I'm like looking around and I'm like, man, like where'd the guy go? So I start walking and I realized there's these kids and they actually were like handing him some handing him, some cash or whatever. And the guy's walking off or whatnot. And I like kind of sped up the cart and I saw him kind of said like, excuse me, sir, are you the guy with the sign? And he's like, yes. And he clearly didn't speak English. I'm not sure if it was Russian accent or Polish or whatnot. And so I just, I handed him the bag and I was like, it's not much, but like, I hope it helps. And so I basically went and I just did that. And then I got back in the car and I wasn't even going to mention anything. And then sure enough, the cart, what do they call those guys at the grocery store, the cart boys, they pick up the carts and stuff. Well, whatever. One of the grocery store kids or like whatever, putting the carts away. And then sure enough, he like looks at me and he goes, that guy's actually homeless. Like I see him everywhere in town. And so it just really it kind of hit hard. And I kind of like looked into the distance and I see that he's getting into a van, which I'm like, oh, thank God he at least has a vehicle, that at least is some form of shelter. And then on top of it, like I see he's got like his mom and a child with him. And I was just like, dude, this is like just heartbreaking. So it really kind of hit me hard, just even like when you see things like that in your neighborhood, it doesn't matter if it's your neighborhood, around town, whatever. A lot of times as us as individuals, we start thinking about like, how did they get into that kind of position? Like what happened? What did they do? Or like, what was it working for them? And really what it comes down to is it doesn't matter because it can those kinds of things can happen to any of us unexpectedly. Like people don't go out of their way to try and put themselves in a homeless situation. And what really is like, we start thinking about, what are their choices, all that stuff. But then all of those thoughts is about us. It's not about them. It then becomes about us. And then we are starting to, and those thoughts that we're having when we're thinking that it's about us, what is that really telling us? It's telling us that we have our own perception of opinion or judgment of how we think others should be living their lives, right? And what the problem is that instead of projecting your own judgments or your own opinions onto others, what we need to be doing is be holding compassion for those around us. And it's not just about holding compassion for the people that we love. It's about holding compassion for others, people that we don't even know, without judgment, without any kind of thought. So the point of all of that story really is for me to try and encourage you guys. I like really kind of like through, not just through the holidays, but really kind of try to be observant about the people that are around you, what they might be needing, regardless of if they're homeless or not. Like, what is it that people need? Hold compassion for them. It doesn't mean you have to dive in and rescue people. It just is, what tiny little things can you do to extend yourself to others and at least hold space for them so that they have compassion, they have treatment, they have love, they have all of those good things without having judgment or opinions being thrown in their face. So at any rate, that's my spiel on that for today. But I do have to change the story. I do have to tell you I'm really, really, really excited. So like I've already told you about my runner monkeys that I've hired to like help me complete the app, which the app is going to be launching in 2022. I'm so excited. I'm like seriously can't even, it almost makes me speechless, which is really hard for me to be speechless because I talk a lot. But I cannot even tell you. So we are basically, so some of you do know that I've over the years, I've written an app, and the idea of the app is actually supposed to be a home base or a safe place for you to go get the answers that you're looking for without feeling like you're being like pitched and sold and getting mixed messages of fad dieting and all of the hogwash that's out there, right? Like my whole mission is to debunk all that crap so that you can just have the straight answers of what you're looking for. So it'll totally be able to assess yourself, be able to do like have nutrition tips on there, and be able to have exercise availability, like assess your body, what's going on, what's not working, and then kind of advising you through. If you want more accountability and also more direction, basically you'll be able to subscribe, and in that subscription, you'll be able to have custom-made workouts or even custom nutrition needs answered to you just on your fingertips. It's going to be freaking awesome. And so I am super excited about this coming out. Now, what we are doing is I decided that I wanted to make something available to you guys that you guys could have an opportunity to be a part of this. And in its launch that's coming in the summer, what we're doing is we're going to actually start pre-selling subscriptions and giving you, hi Heather, it's so good to see you. I'm so excited. I'm so glad to tell you about this app too, because seriously, this is what I've been working really hard on this ever since you asked me for those mommy workouts and what can you do. So you're totally going to love what I've been up to. So at any rate, the whole point of we're going to do a pre-sale of the app that's launching in the summer. And when you do the pre-sale, you can either buy a year subscription and get 3 months free. You can get a 2-year subscription and get 6 months free. You'll also get a Kapitol Health Founders t-shirt that's a one-of-a-kind. It will not be available after the app launches. And you'll also get an immediate access to your Stretch It Out program, which is a collaboration of 50 stretching videos that are videotaped of me demonstrating what you're supposed to be doing so that you don't get lost and confused. So it's going to be huge. Now, for those of you that aren't ready to do the pre-buy for the subscription, what we can do is you can go to my website, which is under construction right now because my runner monkeys are finishing it. They're actually just putting all the bells and whistles and making sure everything's working perfectly. But what we're going to do is so that you guys aren't left hanging, I have written 20 different programs to hit different ailment issues for your body. So it's going to, and basically what happens, you go in, you set up your account, you go ahead and purchase what program that you want, and then you'll have all the videos demonstrating everything to you, and then you don't even have to worry about a thing. It's just right there. And all the programs in there are, you can do them any way that you want. I'm just super excited. I'm super excited. At least you'll know what to do, you need to do for those ailment issues and those goals that you have set aside. But on top of that, yeah, I know, I'm still going. So on top of that, I'm also going to have like my blog rambling stuff. So not just only like, hey, here's my podcast that I'm doing every other Saturday, but then on top of it, when I get incessant ramblings on particular subjects, then I'm going to also put it onto the website. And you can also get merchandise wear, which what do the young kids say now? Merch. Merch is the whole big thing, right? So you're gonna be able to get merch where, of course, like everybody knows I like a good laugh. So we're gonna get all these awesome tanks with some funny phrases on it. And my print girl, she just put this huge spin on them that looks so good. So you'll be able to get Capitol Health swagwear, but it'll have like little funny phrases and, you know, all the good things, right? And then on top of that, yeah, I know, I'm not done. So then on top of that, you're also going to be able to get little, like I make my little oils and ailment issues because oils are so good for not just your emotional response, but your physical response and help really taking care of your body. So I make these little ailment issue oils and stuff. So you'll be able to also get those on the website as well. And better yet, it's all before Christmas. So you're going to be able to get it all before Christmas, which is super awesome. So I'm very excited. If you guys have more questions, feel free to reach out and we'll make sure and take care of you. And then, but more importantly, speaking of the holidays, because the holidays are fabulous, right? Because everybody's in a better mood. Let's just face it. Usually people are walking around grumpy, and then with the holidays, they're actually like nice to each other. So it's kind of really nice. Like I try to be nice to everybody all the time, but I do understand that not everybody can do that. But at least they can try during the holidays and not be a Scrooge, right? Okay, so what are your guys' favorite Thanksgiving foods? Like what do you guys, those of you that are watching, totally chime in. Let me know, what are your favorite Thanksgiving foods? It can be traditional, it could be something new. I just want to see what are some of the things that you guys do. I mean, my family and I, we really stick with kind of the classics, right? So it's always like the turkey, the gravy, mashed potatoes. You always got to do mashed potatoes. And then I'll like interchange a lot of like the veggies depending on that year. But then I always do journey cakes. I found this amazing recipe for journey cakes that is like, is totally old school. Like it was legitimate when the travelers were like going across the country to settle down, like all the settlers were going across the United States and they were figuring out their new places and discovering the land or whatever. They would make these journey cakes. And for some reason, I read weird things all the time. And this recipe was in this book. And so I had like the legit like recipe. And even in the book, it tells you like, you don't put the honey because you make honey and cinnamon, but they would keep it in a jar. So they would like fold up all of their cornbread stuff, and then they would like make sure that it was all safe, and then they wouldn't put the honey on because it would spoil, right? So they would totally just go and do all of that. Heather says squash soup and pumpkin cheesecake. Dude, a pumpkin cheesecake. Do you make that? Because that sounds delicious. Oh, have a wonderful dinner. Tell the kids I said hi. Everybody say bye to Heather. Pumpkin pie. Lynn says pumpkin pie. Okay, pumpkin pie, I have to tell you. So one of my favorite things to do for Thanksgiving is our pumpkin pie. And what most people kind of forget is like, you have all these classics, you're eating all this food, but what happens after the meal? Everyone's like, ugh, right? They just devoured so much food. They almost are just like too enticing. Well, my biggest thing is that I have a lot of food sensitivities. My husband has a lot of food sensitivities, or his gout flare will just like explode and magnify. So, and trust me, like if you have had somebody in your family that has had gout, yeah, you do not want that stuff coming back. And I'm like, yeah, it's bad. So I always am very religious when it comes to like being as strict as I can to make sure that he's not getting those things, because no offense, honey, but you are a pickle when I have to take care of you on a gout flare, and it's not pretty. So one of the things that we do is I actually had to come up with substitutes at Thanksgiving. So like I try to encourage people, like when you're going to Thanksgiving, or if you have to bring or prepare anything, why don't you just do a new spin on what you're already doing with your own diet anyway, and just try to figure it out. Like at Christmas, I will make gluten-free croissant rolls because we always have this soup and we always dip the croissant rolls in the soup, but at the same time, like half of that stuff we can't even have. So just branching out, which like Pinterest has thousands of recipes to look for on top of just, even myself. You can reach out to me and I'll send you some of the stuff that we do. But one of the things I do for pumpkin pie is that I love going to, we have a local little farm trail and that we take the kids to that have the petting zoo and all that fun stuff. And when we go there, your entry fee actually gives you a free like baking pumpkin. So of course I'm totally in for that. So we go over there, we go and get the baking pumpkins, and I bring them home. And when the kids are sitting down in there, we put on Hocus Pocus. We're totally cleaning out all of our pumpkins and doing all of the good carvings, right? Which my husband totally gets so intensive on it. He like diagrams, puts it on a sketching thing, and he totally gets into it. It's really kind of cute. And when they're doing all of that, I actually cut up the baking pumpkin. You cut up the baking pumpkins. You actually use like a little spoon to scoop out the seeds, right? And of course you don't leave the stem on, because I don't want you guys to like try and do this at home and then whoops, like the stem was on there and like it didn't go well. And then basically what you do is you cut it, you like scoop out the guts, you put it down, face down, like so the skin is up and the guts part is down. And then you fill the bottom part of it kind of like with a little bit of water, and then you put it in the oven at 350 for like 45 minutes to an hour. It softens the pumpkin so that then you can literally, when it's done, you fork it, you make sure it's all tender. You take your spoon, you scoop it. I put it into a Ziploc bag, like smash it up, like kind of moosh it around and everything. And then after that, I put it in the freezer. And then now I have legit fresh pumpkin for our pumpkin pies. And then instead of doing like evaporated milk, like who actually drinks evaporated milk if it's not in a pumpkin pie? Like I don't really even know how that's a thing anymore, but whatever. But I always get the coconut milk ones. I get the evaporated coconut milk, so that way we're dairy free. And then I usually try and find like a gluten-free crust that we use, so that at least that way the kids can still have like their favorite I make them little pumpkin cakes with their big, and like they have the big pie and then they have little pumpkin cakes they can snack on during the day while I'm cooking, so they don't bother me while I'm trying to cook and prepare everything, because it's a lot. It just is. But it's fun. But what I would definitely try and challenge you guys is, when you're making all the fixings and you're making all of the things, you don't always have to sit, like some people totally love to do like the new things. There's so many foodies out there right now that like they love to do all the new meals, right? They like to try new things, which I have to say, they've got some cojones thinking they can go and do like a whole new recipe on a holiday. Because like, what if that shit doesn't work? Like, what happens? Like oh, hey, by the way, I attempted to make this food and now everyone's starving. So I have to say, I'm very impressed with the foodies out there that love doing the new stuff. I'm totally one of the classics, like the holidays are the classic meals. Let's stay with them. Let's do that. And then we don't have to really like, it's reliable. I already know what it is and do all that stuff. But over the years, I've had to like replace butter with the dairy-free butter and have to change, the pie, the evaporated milk to the coconut milk. And then like when it comes to the vegetables, I kind of do what everybody else is. So I really highly encourage you guys to just kind of do your own thing and feel good about it. Don't second guess it. Roll with it. Enjoy the holidays. They're not supposed to be this stressful, insane asylum like they sometimes are. So we can change that. We can change anything we want, really. So anyway, but one of my favorite myths about Thanksgiving, speaking of food and stuffing your faces, is how somehow, I don't know why this became a thing, but you know how everybody, they eat all of their food, they're so freaking stuffed, and then everyone needs to take a nap. But for some reason, everybody thinks that the reason why everyone's exhausted is the tryptophan in the turkey. Like, I get it. It has a mild effect on, like, making you tired. But, like, I don't know how that became, like, the main thing. Because really, The reason you get so tired is because you just overloaded yourself with mass amount of carbohydrates. And then your blood's just rush into your stomach to try and digest everything. So then you're just toast. But for some reason, everyone thinks it's the turkey. Like, why is the turkey to blame? It's just high protein. Like, the turkey didn't do anything. It died so they could feed you. Why? Like, just leave the turkey alone. Like, you just ate tons of food. Really? But whatever. Anyway, so I really do have to say that you guys are freaking awesome. I just love that you guys are here. I'm really excited to be doing this. And seriously, anytime you guys think of something in the middle of this, a question or whatever, I really encourage you guys to kind of communicate, because I love questions. I love answering questions. It doesn't even have to be Thanksgiving themed. Like, that's just love doing that. So the other thing I have to do is ask you guys if you are interested in all things this podcast is doing, or find it even remotely entertaining. Please follow on Facebook. You can follow Kapitol Health on Facebook so that you get the updates when the next podcast is coming up. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel. And when the launch of the website comes, which is very soon, it's actually kind of cute, because if you look up kapitolhealth.com, there's like a whole little countdown chart on it. So it's like 21 days and 13 hours and whatever, and it's kind of cute. So I kind of like that it's got the clock or whatever. Although I'd sit there and probably twiddle my thumbs and be like, come on, let's start it already. But anyway, now, when it comes to the holidays, I think a lot of us really think about, I personally kind of really encourage my clients to say, like, hey, let's do the work before the damage gets done, right? Like, thighs before pies. Have you heard that one? Thighs before pies, right? Like, get it going. Get some movement. Don't settle. Don't let things sit there. So how do we really prepare yourself so that you don't do the damage? Now, first of all, one of the biggest things that bothers me is that people thinking that they can't indulge, like they shouldn't, like it's bad. And I really have always focused on training people so that they can do the things they want when they want to, without worrying about not being able to, right? So like being able to do the activities that they wanted to do on vacation, or even, eating the things that they wanted without it having this massive reaction, right? So when it comes to me, I'm always like, indulgences for the holidays, indulgences for vacation, completely okay. Like, if you don't indulge, then you're constantly depriving your body, so that then when it does get introduced, it's almost like sabotaging. You have no control, right? So like, just remember, one meal isn't going to ruin what you've been doing or what you're trying to do. However, just be careful, because that one meal could influence you to bail on a lot of the stuff that you've been working on. Okay? So like, I remember back in the day, I think everybody was like cutting things out of their diet, for Lent or something. And I chose like chocolate chip cookies, because, that was my thing then, right? And so I cut chocolate chip cookies out of my diet for like whatever. But then sure enough, as soon as Lent was over, it's just like shoving in the chocolate chip cookies, that just keeps going for days, right? Where before, it was more of like a modification. Like, I could eat tiny little bits and still stay in control. So just remember that indulging a little bit is perfectly fine, but it's like, here's this indulgence. Then the next step is, hey, I did it here's like my meal that I indulged in. The next day, it's like, get back to gear. Get back to your reset. Don't let it take over your system. Because when it takes over your system, that's how we really get the bad behaviors that flare up. And more importantly, make sure that it counts. Because I don't know anybody in their right mind that should be eating a pumpkin cheesecake and be like, hey, it was okay. And then they kept eating it. Now, I imagine Heather's is probably really good because she's actually kind of a foodie. I know her well. So, but she totally, like, I mean, make sure that it counts. If you're going to indulge, make sure that it's worth it. Because if not, then what are we doing? Like, you're just wasting, that's just a waste. Like, and it's not fair to you. So, just a thought. Anywho, on holiday events, like, okay, we've got Thanksgiving. Well, from what I can tell, a lot of people aren't really a big fan. I haven't really met anybody that's just like all about Thanksgiving. Like, anytime I think about Thanksgiving, I think of that Friends episode when Joey gets the turkey stuck on his head, right? Like, to me, I'm like, yeah, Thanksgiving, Joey with a turkey on his head, right? But then not many people, like, they're huge fans about the food. Some people aren't even fans about the food, except unless it's like the pumpkin pie, right? And so there's all these different, after the holiday, like after Thanksgiving, we've got all the holidays that are coming up. So it's like in the holiday events that come on top of it. And then it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to deal with. So how do we avoid the holiday games, right? Like, it's just like, here's Thanksgiving, that's this mondo explosion of food. And then after that, you've got like 6 or 7 different things leading up to Christmas or what have you. And it's like all of those parties, it's indulgence, 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 etc. Right? So some of the things that I like to do is, if I'm going to a party or an event or something, and this is just in general, this doesn't even have to do with holidays primarily, this is like all the time. So before I even go to an event, one, I mean, it helps because I have food sensitivities. So a lot of times I can't even eat some of the stuff that's provided there. But on a scale of, sometimes I really like to be able to eat what's there, right? And if there was something, but at the same time, I also didn't want to overdo it, what I'll do is I'll totally eat like a snack or something before going, so that therefore I'm more like nibbling on foods rather than actually like getting large portions of thing and then not realizing how much I actually consumed. Because, when you're talking and socializing and stuff, sometimes you didn't even realize that you actually like ate the whole piece, and we're like, oh man, I probably shouldn't have eaten that. And then you feel guilty, and that we don't want to go there. So I always say, before you go, try eating a snack, eating a meal, getting a little bit of the fullness factor so that you can indulge, but you don't overdo it, right? It prevents you from doing that. The other thing that I like to do is, like, if I am at an event, they always have like the large plates and the small plates, and then they have the napkins and whatever. So I always like to say, like, pick the small plate, or pick the napkin that's the like square one, right? And make sure that what you're eating only fits on that plate. Now, that does not mean that you get to tower that stuff on. That doesn't mean, hey, let's just pile it up into this big mountain of a molehill. Let's make sure that when here's our little square piece, pick and choose what you want on it, put it on there, whatever, and just eat what's on that small plate or that napkin. And then that way, it's like when you're done eating it, you're done. Now, fruits and vegetables, those obviously don't apply. Now, if the fruits and veggies had like chocolate or sugar, I don't know why anybody would put chocolate on a cauliflower, but I'm saying, like, if it has that stuff, obviously that doesn't apply. It's more of like, eat unlimited fruits and vegetables without additives, and then you can basically eat your little napkin, right? And that's especially for people that don't have time to eat something, or they don't even have access to eat something before they go, right? The other thing too is, think about, like, when you go to one of those things, sometimes they're really set up like potluckies, right? Like potlucks where you bring your own plate, and which, I have to be perfectly honest, when I go to like a potluck, I actually really like to bring the unhealthy thing, because then I can prove to people that I can actually cook. And also because, like, everyone always is like, oh, she's the healthy chick, so of course she's gonna bring something healthy. No, I don't. I actually like make these really bomb sausage rolls that are super good. So we usually do that, but normally if I have to go to an event and I don't know what kind of food to expect, bring the healthy plate. Like, there's nothing wrong with you bringing the healthy plate. The healthy plate is kind of a rescue item for a lot of people like me that can't eat a lot of the other foods out there. So I always like to say that bringing the healthy plate is not like something like people are going to sit there and make fun of you or whatever. They're usually relieved. They're usually like, thank God somebody else brought something good to eat. Now I don't feel so bad, because you start getting insecure about how much you consumed or whatever, because it was one party after the next, and then the holidays and all the good Christmas cookies and all the stuff. But instead of being the weird person that doesn't eat anything, and like, which I say weird like that because you're not weird, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that we start thinking that there's something wrong, like that it's socially awkward, and there's nothing wrong with it. But bring the healthy plate. Bring the healthy plate so that you can feel comfortable and do all of the things. But most importantly, can everyone please just hydrate? Like, hydrate up the freaking wazoo. Because everybody is like, this is the time of year where if anyone's even thinking about having a glass of wine or a cocktail or whatever and doing their whole, like, spiked eggnog or whatnot, the number one thing is it's a dehydrator, right? Like, so, and most people are drinking like multiple cups of coffee a day, right? So there's not even mindlessly drinking their coffee throughout the day so that they can stay on top of their stuff. And then at night they're having a cocktail and then they're massively dehydrated. And being dehydrated is a huge energy killer. Like, I can't even begin to explain. Like, a lot of times when people are yawning, it's not because they're exhausted. It's because they need more oxygen. And what has oxygen in it? Water. So just drink some water and make sure you stay hydrated. And I guarantee that if you do end up having one of those nights where you had a little too much, it will help with the hangover. I'm just saying. Note to self. But anyway, so that pretty much sums up some of the tips and tricks I have for you today. I am so happy and appreciate so much for listening to me ramble. I'm always so shocked on how many people like listening to me ramble, and also really honored to at least be a part of making a little, even just the slightest impact on your guys' lives. Like, that's a huge compliment to me, just a huge heart, so much love for you guys. It's ridiculous. And I also wanted to say, have a happy Thanksgiving to all of you and your loved ones, no matter if you're traveling, safe travels. If you're doing something low key, just enjoy the time off. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook and YouTube so that you can at least get the next podcast update. I will definitely try to get the microphone adapter that I need for it, or at least plug it into a computer instead of my tablet next time, which is kind of funny. And I just have to say, do me a favor. Stop thinking that you're alone when it comes to things are getting hard. Like, the holidays don't necessarily bring up all the good things all the time. It's not always about the funs and the thrills. A lot of times it's almost like life seems to become more stressful, or more things are going on with us when we're through the holidays. So just remember to try and keep that compassion for others. Try and find something that you can do to hold compassion for others and be more compassionate for others. And even when there are people that aren't just your loved ones, but just for everyone as just a human being, right? And even more importantly is, don't forget that you are not alone. We are all in this together. You're not alone. We will get through all of this. Everything in our life, we got each other's backs. We can always support each other through all of the things and really have the capital life that we deserve. Love you guys.